Okay, so let's talk about intensity of interval training. The first thing I want to say before we even get into that is that heart rate doesn't really mean anything for fat loss. You know, we've all grown up and we've all heard about through the last few decades that heart rate is so important, that you have to train in this heart rate zone for fat loss. It's not true. It has absolutely no impact on fat loss. So if your heart rate's 160, doesn't mean you're burning more fat or less fat than anybody else. What really matters is intensity of training. Heart rates are so variable between individuals, and again, it doesn't matter what your specific heart rate is. One mistake that most people make with their interval training that I mentioned in the interval training report is that people get too focused on keeping their heart rate up because that's all they've heard for years. Oh, you got to keep your heart rate up. You don't. You do not have to do that. What you want to see in interval training is your heart rate go up and then you recover so that it comes way back down. And most people just can't handle that because they have that cardio mentality of always keeping the heart rate up. But you have to do the recovery periods. That's a very important point, and they're called recovery for a reason, so that your heart rate comes back down, you recover, and so that you can train at that level again. If you don't do that, and you keep that heart rate elevated during recovery, what happens is you'll go up really high in the first one, you only come back down to here, and then you won't be able to work hard again. You'll only be able to just go in this little zone. What we want to do is go interval training hard, recovery, interval training hard, recovery. That's what we want to do. Now to get to the specific intensity levels. We're going to use a 10-point scale, and our recovery is going to be a 3 out of 10, which is going to be literally just walking around. So I don't care how super fit you are, if you're doing interval training my way, turbulence training way, the right way for fat loss, what you're going to do is slow down to a 3 out of 10 intensity level in every recovery period. So how does that relate to cardio? Well, a 6 out of 10 is what you could do for 30 to 45 minutes at a comfortable pace, okay? So think about, the last time you went for a 30 to 45 minute brisk walk or a 30 to 45 minute jog. That is your 6 out of 10 intensity level. And when we do our intervals, almost every interval we do is going to be at 8 or 9 out of 10 intensity level. So we're not usually going to train at a 7 out of 10 unless you're a beginner that's brand new to interval training and we just want to give you some type of, accommodation to it. Here's how you get used to it. And so we'll just go a little bit harder than cardio and then go back down to the 3 out of 10 in the recovery period. But if you're more advanced, we'll work at an 8 out of 10 or even a 9 out of 10 level of intensity. And the last question you probably need to understand is, well, what separates a 9 from a 10? And it's easy just to think about it this way. A 10 out of 10 level of intensity is when you're running for your life, okay? So you're willing to risk injury in order to run as fast as you can. But we don't ever want to train at that level, obviously because we don't want to get hurt. And a 9 out of 10 intensity level is really going to give us great results as well, okay? So 6 out of 10 is cardio, 10 out of 10 is running for your life. We want to be working up in that 8 to 9 level of intensity. All right, now I'm going to show you some really cool ways to do interval training in a big park like this with, probably the funnest ways of doing it, with probably less impact on your joints and also reduced risk of hamstring injury, which a lot of people have problems with when they do flat out straight sprints. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next.